This meeting to order. Before we start, I would like to recognize and welcome our newest commissioner, Carl DeGiorgio, who is former TransCirc member to my right. Lots of experience with the city, and we're lucky to have him here. So tonight's his first night, so be nice. With that, I have a shortened welcome script. Welcome to tonight's Planning Commission meeting. As a courtesy, members of the public may participate remotely in the meeting. Please refer to the meeting agenda for information about how to provide public comments, either in person here or in the room or via teleconferencing. There's more in the agenda on the exacts for those online if you have any questions. And with that, I would like to start with roll call. I'll start with our newest commissioner, Commissioner DeGiorgio. Here. Commissioner Sturm.
Present.
Commissioner Mason.
Present.
Commissioner Heising.
Present.
Vice Chair Radnich.
Present.
And Chair Labange, I'm here. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion, any opposed? Okay, motion carries. To staff, do we have any public comments tonight that are not on tonight's agenda? Either in here or online?
Staff has received no speaker slips, and there are no attendees in the Zoom currently, so no speakers at this time.
All right, thank you. For our consent calendar, does anyone anyone up here wish to remove any items from the consent calendar? If not, may I have a motion to adopt the consent calendar?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion carries. We have no continued public hearing. Next is new public hearing. We have ZT01-24 auxiliary dwelling unit ordinance update. I'll turn it over to staff if you'd like to do the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll have my presentation shared on the screen momentarily. In August, the Planning Commission reviewed updates to the city's accessory dwelling or unit or ADU ordinance and recommended approval to the City Council at that time. Since that time, 2 new bills were signed into law that will take effect in January 2025. And staff have incorporated these changes into the current update to the ADU ordinance to not have to bring that back a second time next year. And so we're bringing it back before the Planning Commission for further review. The ordinance also includes some updated language regarding the bonus J ADU program we previously presented and tree protection requirements for Class C ADUs, as the tree protection ordinance is being updated by the city as well. One of the new bills which affects ADUs is AB 2533. The only language that this changes in our updated ordinance is related to legalization of unpermitted ADUs. Previously, city could not deny a permit to legalize an ADU that was constructed before 2018. And with the new language, that date is expanded to include any ADU unpermitted unit that was constructed before January 2020. And it also includes junior ADUs and not just ADUs. The second bill, which was recently signed into law, is SB 1211. This had a few updates, so I'm going to start with replacement parking. Previously, the language regarding parking that must be replaced or must not be replaced when an ADU is built in the place of that parking only included covered parking, garage, carport, etc. The new language in the updated law includes uncovered parking spaces as well. So when a garage, carport, or uncovered parking space is demolished or removed to make space for an ADU, no replacement parking is required. Also, SB 1211 affects ADUs on multifamily zoned properties. So existing law allows 2 detached ADUs on a property with an existing multifamily development. The new law allows up to 8 detached ADUs, not to exceed the existing number of units. So if the existing multifamily number of units is less than 8, then the number of ADUs can only equal or be less than the total number of multifamily units existing on the property. For properties that are zoned multifamily, do not have existing but may have a proposed multifamily development, the limit is still 2 detached ADUs. So 2 detached ADUs can be proposed with a future multifamily development. SB 1211 also updates the definition of livable space as it relates to converting ADUs from space such as storage units, carports, basements, or other non-livable space within multifamily developments. The city has updated the bonus JADU program to comply with state law, which only permits 1 junior accessory dwelling unit per property. What we have accomplished in the updated ordinance is to further define bonus ADU. So what the program has been renamed to is a bonus ADU program and not a bonus JADU. However, bonus ADU is specifically defined and contains the same size limitations as a junior ADU. So a bonus ADU can be no larger than 500 square feet, must be located entirely within an existing single-family residence, just like a junior ADU already is. Excuse me. Related to tree protection and replacement, the language has been updated based on the fact that the city is undergoing updates to our tree protection ordinance. This language has been simplified in the ADU ordinance. State law requires our ADU ordinance not to cross-reference to other sections of our municipal code. And therefore, any definitions of tree protection that are made elsewhere in our code must also be explicitly made in the ADU ordinance itself. So that language has been updated. One final item that was brought to staff's attention after publication of the written staff report is that junior ADUs should not be assigned their own address. Generally, ADUs are assigned using the address number and a letter, Unit A or Unit B. However, JADUs cannot be metered separately from the primary address for the purposes of providing sewer, power, water, et cetera. Staff recommends the Planning Commission include this revision in their recommendation to the City Council so that staff can incorporate the change in language into the final draft. And it is only striking the word JADU twice from this section. Staff received no further public comments since the August 19th meeting, and staff recommends the Planning Commission find the ordinance exempt from CEQA and find it consistent with the general plan, compliant with state law, and adopt Resolution 2024-13 to recommend approval to the Planning Commission. And that concludes my presentation. I am available for questions.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for staff on this? Mr. Mason?
Yes, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't misreading this. The reference to unpermitted ADUs, that specifically does not refer to structures that were constructed without a building permit?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
It's only the use as an ADU.
Do you feel it needs to be clarified? Because there's a lot of old structures out here that may have been converted illegally where the conversion's fine, but the structure itself is.
Yeah, it would not exempt them from needing a building permit in the first place to build the structure.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, do we have any public comments on this?
We have no speaker slips at the staff table and no attendees on Zoom, so no speakers at this time.
Okay, we will close public comments, bring it back to the Planning Commission for deliberation. Do any planning commissioners want to make any comments? If not, I would gladly accept a motion.
Why is everyone looking at me? I'll make the motion. And I'll preface my motion by just stating for the benefit of any listeners and the public that this action proposed tonight is simply to take into account the Assembly bill and Senate bills that were adopted and take effect January 1st of 2025. And we're making our municipal code match those that take effect. So I'll move that we find the ADU regulations exempt from CEQA and consistent with state law and with the general plan, and adopt resolution 2024-13 and forward a recommendation for adoption to the city council. Quick question. The way it's written, striking the J, the junior ADU is how it's written. We don't need to add that to the motion, correct?
Please add it to the motion for the record.
Okay, so with the addition that staff mentioned regarding the JADU addressing.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, now we have our second new public hearing. L05-24 HDP 18-24 DR 11-24 GR 12-24 Lindbergh owner LR-10 zoning. I will now turn it over to staff for the presentation. Thank you.
Hello. Hi. I will be presenting on proposed permits for land use, hillside development, design review, and grading for construction of a new garage and pickleball court at 7 Vista del Valle. Oh, perfect. Great. Thank you. The property is 16.12 acres and is located near the eastern city boundary between the Glenside Estates and Burton Valley neighborhoods. The zoning for this property is low-density residential LR10, and the Burton Ridge Class 1 ridge line goes through the northeast corner of the property. Existing development includes a single-family residence, garage, in-law unit, barn, tack room, stables, pool house, and swimming pool. Access to the property is provided by Vista del Valle, which connects to Michael Lane. This is what the project site looks like with story poles. These are images of the views from the project site shown in the direction they are oriented around the map. As you can see, the slope and trees make the site pretty concealed from off-site. The southwest image shows an existing water tank, which is nearby the proposed project, and the northeast view shows the ridgeline. These are photos of the neighboring properties. Let me know if I move too fast, please. Before we keep going, I want to point out that this map and most of the others are not oriented toward north. So this one has north to the left and south to the right. The property is sloped down from east to west. So in this map, that would be top to bottom. And the project is proposed to be in a less sloped area towards the bottom of the hill. It's that gray box. The project would be 124 feet from the nearest property line, 135 feet from the Class 1 ridge line setback, and 535 feet from the Burton Ridge Class 1 ridge line. It would also be 565 feet from 686 Glenside to the west, or bottom to the down, and 599 feet from 782 Glenside to the north or the left. There are also existing trees between the project site and the western neighbors, as shown by those green tree outlines. This site section shows the slope of the hill. The Burton Ridge Class 1 ridgeline in the east is on the left side of the image, and the western neighbor is on the right side. This also shows that the project would be outside of the 15-degree declination from the ridgeline because the project is proposed to be set into the hillside. It's that, the flat box. Let me know if you have questions. The project consists of constructing a 2,160 square foot garage with a pickleball court on the roof of the garage. It also proposes converting an existing dirt driveway to a compact gravel driveway, adding a concrete retaining wall on the downhill side of the driveway, and creating a gravel path with stone steps to connect the project to the main residence. There is no landscaping as part of this project. As you can see on the left, this is how the project would increase the amount of square footage of structures and impervious surfaces. The proposed project would be 35 feet 2 inches in width and 60 feet in length. Inside the garage, it would provide enough room for 5 cars plus storage. The roof would be large enough for a standard pickleball court, and a railing would go around the majority of the roof's perimeter. The project's garage would be 10 foot 6 inches high with a 6-foot railing on top for a max height of 16 feet 6 inches. As you can see, the project would be set into the hillside, so the rear and side walls act as retaining walls. There are 7 proposed lights on the walls between the garage doors and no lighting proposed on the pickleball court. The garage siding will be made of natural stone veneer, and the garage doors will be overhead carriage, both of which would match the existing house. The proposed light fixture is dark sky compliant. On the garage's roof, the pickleball court would be painted green and blue with white stripes, and the railing that wraps around the court would be black metal. Here's a 3D rendering to get a better understanding of what the project would look like. To construct this project, there would be 600 cubic yards of cut for the structure to be put into the hill. The project also proposes 200 cubic yards of fill. Part of this would be used to make the driveway slightly wider to comply with fire standards. A concrete retaining wall with a max height of 5 feet would also be added on the downhill side of the driveway for support. The location of the rest of the fill is not specified and may be used around the project based on engineering or building department recommendations. The extra 400 cubic yards of cut earth would either go somewhere on site or to a neighboring project at 782 Glenside. Regarding the operational characteristics of the project, the pickleball court would be used by the property owners and their guests during daylight hours only. These limitations have been added to the conditions of approval. The project would be compliant with all general plan and LR10 zoning district regulations, including the number of allowed dwelling units per acre and height and setback requirements. The pickleball court would also be compliant with all development standards for recreation courts. Regarding siting and massing, the project would be located in an open and less sloped area over 500 feet from neighboring buildings. The garage would be set into the hillside to reduce protrusion and not appear excessively large from off-site. The design is consistent with residential design review guidelines, and the size is comparable to other structures on site and neighboring buildings. Access to the project would be through an existing dirt road converted to a compact gravel driveway, and the proposed garage would add 5 new parking spaces. The project's pickleball court raises concerns regarding the noise impacts on neighbors. However, the court would be over 500 feet away from neighboring buildings. It will only be used during daylight hours, and existing trees may act as sound barriers, so it would not likely have an undue impact on neighbors. The project would be located on a hillside with a Class 1 ridgeline on the property, so there may be concerns regarding visibility and privacy impacts on neighbors. However, the project would be over 500 feet from neighboring buildings. The proposed structure being set into the hillside makes it less visible. The presence of trees help to shield views, and the lights are dark sky compliant, so it would not likely have an undue impact. The geotechnical report made recommendations for grading, which have been added as conditions of approval. The arborist report also made recommendations to protect the existing trees, which have been added to the conditions of approval. These are the additional conditions of approval that staff recommends adding to reduce concerns around the project. Please let me know if you have any specific questions. Staff evaluated the project in accordance with CEQA and determined the project to be categorically exempt due to being an accessory structure. The project was referred to Lafayette Engineering, Central San, EV Mud, Fire Protection District, Lafayette Parks, Walnut Creek, and the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Notable comments include Lafayette Parks discouraging using any reflective materials in order to reduce glare. This was added as a condition of approval. Engineering also expressed concern for how the noise generated by the pickleball court may affect neighbors. The project was noticed by mail and physically, and no public comment was received. Staff recommends the Planning Commission find the project exempt from CEQA and adopt the Resolution 2024-14 approving the project subject to conditions. That ends my presentation.
Thank you. That was very informative. Appreciate that. Does anyone up here have any clarifying questions for staff before we open up to applicant? Vice Chair Radnich?
Thank you. I do have a couple, mostly just to kind of put it out there for the record, and it might be for the applicant to respond to. So the first one is more of just a comment that I did try to go access the site because the staff report did mention story poles, and there's a intercom. So yesterday I went around 5 o'clock, I wasn't able to access. So the recommendation, or I guess the request would be that in the future, if an applicant is providing story poles, it would be nice if we could even just be identified of a 2-hour window or something where we could have access, because this is something that does create noise for neighbors, and a lot of people worry about pickleball courts. So just in the future, that would be nice. And then since I can anticipate comments on noise, what would be the correct path if someone or a neighbor were to want to make a noise complaint?
I would think that they would need to contact code enforcement, because this project would be subject to following the conditions of approval. Code enforcement would have grounds to do something. I'm not sure what they could actually do, though.
Okay, I do appreciate that, just putting it out there for the public. And then, then the last one would be, you had mentioned that the roughly potential 400 cubic yards of soil, the difference might be placed somewhere on site or a nearby property. So my first question is, does this property owner own that other property?
No.
Okay, and if it were to be on their own property, I could see concerns from neighbors potentially that there could be runoff or it wouldn't be placed properly. So what would the method be? And this might be a question for the applicant team, but what would be the method to ensure that that soil isn't just going to be, just say, placed along the property line, rain comes down the slope and it goes all into a neighbor's yard? So that would be maybe more of a question for the applicant's team,
Yeah.
when appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would think that maybe we could ask for an updated grading plan that specifies everything that will be done closer to maybe when construction drawings are submitted, that the engineering department can review for grading concerns.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right. If there's an applicant here, if they would like to please present, go ahead, please. Just give us your name and.
Good evening, Mike Masano, Ward Young Architects. This is the first time I've presented in person since COVID, so, and I see we have a new commissioner and Ashland's a new planner, so it's not a lot of new for us. I would like to correct one thing. First of all, I apologize for not thinking forward about the access gate. So, the current property owner of the lot in question does own the adjacent lots. Ashlyn and I had a talk the other day when she was preparing, and we don't have anywhere specified now for the off-all, but there's 16 acres on this site plus many, many acres on the adjacent sites. So if we don't find something adjacent because it's easiest to get dirt travel less, but either way, we have to have a grading permit that the city engineer will review and the county will permit. And the process is to key and drain and compact and soil engineer. So there's a whole series of processes that we go through to actually make sure that the fill of the 400 yards is stable and does not create a drainage problem. Does that answer your questions?
Yeah, it does, thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Yes, the report was very thorough. Thank you for that. I don't really have anything to add. There was some comments on the noise. There's obviously part of the ordinance is not to allow lights, so there's no lights proposed on the court itself. The noise, the only thing that I think that the ordinance addresses there, that it is used by the property owners and not for any other recreational use like having a class or open to the public. So it would only be used by the property owners. I don't know if there was a time limitation like from 8 to 5. I didn't check that out. But anyway, I can't really speak to the enforcement possibilities of any complaints by neighbors due to noise. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, does anyone have it? So are you,
Yeah,
that's fine. If we have questions, you can certainly respond. If not, we'll probably.
Okay, thank you.
But before you go down, anyone have any questions? Commissioner Mason?
Yes, I've got 3 questions. First is somewhat of a layup. I'm assuming that you don't add a 5-car garage unless you're a serious car person.
Well, there's that, and there's also farming equipment.
Okay. Well, the big question is, this isn't a backdoor way to get another unit on the property.
Oh, no.
Okay, that's what I assumed. Right now, I am fine with everything. It's just I have a problem with condition of approval 18. I think they're remedied. That's the one about dealing with the arborist reports. If you want to pull.
Yes, what's the question?
Okay, you were looking down. So basically, one of the requirements was for trees 11 and 12, which are heritage oaks, you stake the corner of the building. But that corner, that uphill corner, is a 13.5-foot retaining wall. So unless you're going to shore it, which is an additional expense, you've got maybe 12 inches behind that wall. I think the OSHA standards is a 4.5-foot vertical cut and a 1-by-1-to-1 layup back. So, you're not going to be able to stake that corner, but the more appropriate thing might be to show the extent of the layback so the arborist can make a determination on whether or not that will affect the oaks. I'd rather it be dealt with early on than when you're halfway through the grading. The second one relates to the tree number 21. And there's a photo in there, and you address the width of the roadway, but the fire also has an additional comment that you have to have 13 foot 6 inches of vertical clearance. So it looks like you're cutting most of that tree away. And it said that oak number 21 shall be preserved.
It will be. There might be some pruning. Traverso Tree Service has done a lot of work in Lafayette. I'm sure you've seen his work before. And is Traverso the one that is, yeah, and Traverso's been maintaining the oaks in there since 2004. There, I believe, is a condition that the arborists be present during grading operations and anything of that nature. So if you want to reinforce the conditions of approval to specifically state that, but there might be some pruning. I don't.
Can you pull up from the arborist report that photo of tree number 21? Because one of the things that's not clear is you need to widen the driveway. I'm assuming you're widening it on the side away from the tree.
Correct, the downhill side, yes. Well, I know we're widening it on the downhill side. I can't recall the exact number 21. But yeah, when you go from 7 Vista Del Valle on the existing dirt road that accesses the back of the property, that's the road that's going to be widened a bit. There are a couple canopies that you pass under, so those would have to be limbed to 13 feet 6 inches. Yes, but there's on site, these trees are huge and all over, and I think the Limburgers have planted close to 1,000 oaks upon the thing. So yeah, there's a lot of oaks.
Yeah, as you can imagine, we get lots of advice when oaks are cut down.
I can hear Gina Telvich talking to me right now, so.
It's the photo of the tree right by the road, there's a little metal, not that one.
That's the one you're talking about laying it when you
That's the
lay
one
back.
about laying back.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is the one I was talking about, just going under that tree's already kind of leaning, and there'll be a wall.
Yeah.
and
The
cutting.
retaining wall is going to be placed approximately where the cattle fence is now. And I mean, just walking under there, it's sort of not an optical illusion, but you can't tell. I believe we have the 13-foot 6 under there now. But if there's something that needs to be limbed, Traverso will do that accordingly, and they do all the correct procedures. Also, when we're doing excavation for the retaining wall, the structural engineering drawings will be submitted to Traverso for review. And anything that is encountered when the excavation is done, they're on site to cleanly cut the roots.
We're familiar with Traverso, they've been around
Yeah,
forever.
exactly. John's retired, but this is Maya, and I met her up on site. She's great. So,
Okay, thank you, that's it for me.
All right. Any other questions, anyone? All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
thank you.
All right. We'll now open up for public comments. If we have any for this presentation.
We have 2 speakers in the room. The first is Ted Pilecki, followed by Andrew Ness. You have up to 3 minutes for your comments.
Hi. First comment is that this was billed as an initial hearing, so we're trying to understand. We haven't seen these plans before, so our biggest concerns are line of sight and what we're actually going to see. It went pretty quick, the presentation, to understand exactly where this is cited on the overhead. So if these records are available somewhere, if we can be given those links so we can understand that, that would be appreciated. The other main concern that we have is the runoff from that hill down to our property. We are at 690 Glenside. And any disruption that's going to affect either surface runoff or underground runoff, all the properties that are down that hill, in rainy season, they get all that water. So we'd want to better understand the drainage plan and how we can make sure that we don't have unintended consequences as a result of this build. On the noise aspect, I think it's far enough back. But my only experience with pickleball is at the community center when we're coaching the basketball teams and we have to understand the sound. It is quite loud when you're close. So hopefully it being elevated like that, it won't cascade through the hills, but that would be a concern as well. So that's our primary concerns, and just understanding how we can get a look at the materials so that we can further evaluate it.
Okay, thank you. And staff, could you pull up maybe the one that showed the houses and just help point out 690 if you can? And then I would just say this package that we're reviewing is online on the city's website. Were you able to access that?
It wasn't linked on what was sent to us, so we didn't have a prompt to say, go look for it.
Okay, well, if you want to, you just go to the city's website, under Planning Commission, you will have it. But we'll try to, and the applicant will have an opportunity to respond. I'll let them do what they want, and then we'll go from there. So you're in the green right there?
Yeah, we're in the green right there. And there's a little V-shaped hill just outside of their property line that rolls, that basically cascades everything right down to our property.
Okay.
We discovered this the year after we bought, that the basement had, not the basement, but we have a little bit of an area under the ground that took water on in 2015.
So your concern is that this doesn't make it worse, because you wouldn't expect it to make it better?
No, I don't expect it to make it better, but I want to make sure it doesn't make it any worse.
Okay, all right, well, thank you. Any questions for the speaker? Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, can you see the story poles from anywhere on the street or your house, where that would help you figure out, be able to see where it's going to be located?
If it's behind, we're still not clear exactly where it's geolocated on when you show this overhead. I don't know, maybe there's a better view. Oh, okay, so it's a little bit farther back than, our biggest concern was that it was right, you see where that almost looks like where the road, where the 78 is, comes up. Our thought was it was right behind those trees, but if it's further back behind these other trees from a line of sight, that's a lot better. We wouldn't be able to see it both from a angle or just proximity standpoint.
Right.
So for the speaker's benefit, on screen, you can see the Big Tan riding arena. To the northwest of that, up to the left, is the brownish roof. Directly north of that is the pool.
Yeah.
And the pickleball court would be essentially to the left of the pool.
Okay, in that open space.
Yeah, but you could see the right where the cursor is, there's a big tree, a big oak tree. That's the one that was referenced by Commissioner Mason. So it's going to be roughly in the vicinity of the cursor.
Okay, that's very helpful.
Oh, and just so you know that when you go on the city website, the plans are available. One of the plans that they have is a drainage plan. I believe it's done by the civil engineer Human, who's been around forever. And they have, although they're not sized, I believe they show drain lines, catch basins, and things like, I don't know what's new or what's existing, but there is information there, and that might help you make, give some more directed comments or questions.
Sure. Thank you.
But thank you for bringing your concerns.
Thank you. I think we have one more speaker.
The next
Hi.
speaker is Andrew Ness.
Hi, Mr. Ness, come on up.
Good evening. I'm Andrew Ness. We live at 686 Glenside Drive, right next to Ted. Mike designed our house too, and also as far as grading is concerned, I can't quite speak to Ted's one, but I can assure you when the Lindberghs were building their property, they graded it such we got less flooding in our house. So we built French drains and whatsoever, but it was less.
Mr. Ness, I can't hear you that well, sorry.
It was, I can assure, I trust Mike's grading because when the Lindberghs built their first property, it actually helped reduce the amount of water coming down into our property and our house. And we did have extra French drains, etc., but it was better. The second thing is I understand the concern about the pickleball courts at the community centre. However, I do not have any reservations whatsoever about the pickleball court on the Lindbergh's property, so I want to reassure the planning review that we're okay with it. And we had inquiries from another neighbour, and I reassured him as well. And the fact that it's going to be, like you said, etc., I support the project. I just wanted to put that in. Okay.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the speaker? All right, thank you, Mr. Ness, appreciate it. All right, and if you would like to maybe perhaps, oh, sorry. Do we have any online comments?
One moment. If you would like to speak on this item, please go ahead and hit the raise hand button in Zoom, and you'll be allowed to speak. Seeing none.
Great, thank you. If you want to, if there's any of those you can address, we'd appreciate it.
Yes, thank you. Yes, to Ted, I didn't get your last name? Paliki. To his concern about the drainage first, yeah, in this circumstance, the drainage contributing area for this part of the site goes into a swale that continues to the northwest, sort of to around the Minebreast house, and I can't remember what address it, but there's, even without that drainage diverting it away from Ted's house, it's, when we submit for the permit, the grading plans will be reviewed, and there are codes that require no net increase in runoff. The Lindberghs, you can see the water tank beside the proposed structure. That water tank is there existing now, and it was placed there because of drainage situations that come down that swale underneath the trees. What that does is it fills up with water rapidly when it rains hard, and it comes out like a 1 or 2 inch outlet so that it disperses it slower into the existing swale. So the Lindberghs have been very good stewards of the land and making sure all the neighbors are happy with what they did up there. And like Andrew Ness had said, that actually has helped some of the runoff that was there before the Lindberghs developed their land. And Ted, Eric Lindbergh has said that you're welcome to come up there and look at it and see the situation and stuff and just talk about it as neighbors. So that ends my rebuttal.
Great, thank you. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. So we have no more public comments?
Correct.
Okay, we will close the public comment period. We'll bring it back to Planning Commission for any comments or discussions. Anyone? Commissioner Heising?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. So just to start off, to address Mr. Pilecki's comment about line of sight, I think it was also in staff's presentation, one of the slides, but the second attachment to the staff report, and specifically it's sheet A1.2. It's very telling because there's a profile of the hillside, and it shows the houses down below, and there's like a nice natural notch in the hillside where the proposed garage is sitting in the notch, and then also it looks like it's graded into the hillside, so it's kind of bunkered down into the hill, and outside of the, as staff mentioned, outside of that 15-degree declination, so it's kind of hidden down in this hole, and was also mentioned in the staff report. Plus, there's the line of trees, and I drove around the area down below. When you're from public streets down below, you can't even see the story poles. So from a pure siting and massing standpoint, I think it's, I mean, I don't think you can get it in a much better location to kind of hide it from the rest of the area. Regarding noise, I think the condition that it's not going to be open to leagues, it's not going to be at night when it's quieter, because there's no lights, so you can't play in the dark. I don't think it's, I mean, there's a pool already on site, so if people haven't been complaining about swimmers at the pool, I mean, you have some friends over, you're playing pickleball, it's no different than us playing basketball in the backyard with one of our kids. And to add to that, my kids swam at Las Trampas School, and I know, or Las Trampas Pool, and that swimming pool makes 10 times more noise than a pickleball court will make, and it echoes up the hillside into that whole valley. And Las Trampas Pool has the loudspeakers, so they're like blasting the timer and all that. So that's just my opinion on noise and siting and massing. And then lastly, on the drainage, I think the engineer was smart in specifically not designing impervious surface, like that's not asphalt, it's not concrete drive, it's gravel. So all that rainwater that hits that non-impervious surface will go into the ground. And the way that drainage dissipator is designed, it makes it so the water is not concentrated. So the only impervious surface is the surface of the garage, and that water then drains down to that dissipator and it spreads it out. So I think that'll help with alleviating any concentrated runoff concern. So those are my comments for now.
All right. Anyone else have any comments?
I did look at the drainage. I was more concerned about subsurface drainage because you'll generally have a drain line behind a retaining wall, but the drawings look like they have that addressed. You know, the concern was basically putting a 60-foot wide dam, but it looks like the civil drawings show the drainage behind the wall and show it emptying into a closed system. And so I'm not that worried about that. I think that there are some things that need to be coordinated with the arborist to make sure everybody's on the same page, but that can be done at the staff level. And I'm assuming that, you know, if there's a problem and we're going to lose 3 oak trees, that somebody would tell us. But other than that, I'm fine. I think it's a good project. Yes, sound has a tendency to carry, not just Las Trampas Pool where my kids play, but also the Little League field that can really, really carry. But it's as good a place and as good a site as you're going to find anywhere in town, and I'm all for it. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments from Planning Commission? If not, anyone would like to make a motion?
I can make one.
Please.
I move that we find the project exempt from CEQA and adopt PC Resolution 2024-14, approving the project subject to the conditions of approval.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's
And there's a 14-day appeal period. Thank you. Thank you for all the people who spoke. All right, other business, ARC. Let's see, ARC volunteer for December 13th, anyone? Was that you? Okay. You guys got that?
Thank you, Commissioner Heising.
And commissioners report?
I'm sorry, would you mind telling me what the ARC
Sure.
is?
So it's kind of a meeting where design review, a rep from design review and planning commission come with staff, the zoning administrator, they go over projects to decide which level they need to be reviewed at. And it's done remotely. It's, with a smaller package, we do a quick review, we make a decision, and that decides if it goes to zoning administrator, design review, planning commission, or wherever else it might go.
I'd like to get the invite just so I could listen in, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Can do.
And sometimes we don't assign, sometimes we don't, it doesn't come up that someone volunteers here, so we'll get emails occasionally, and it's just whoever can does, and it just naturally goes around, so, yeah.
Why don't you tell them the time is Friday mornings at
9:30?
9:30?
Yeah, it's usually Friday at 9:30. Okay, any commissioners' reports? I don't think so. Okay, planning director's report?
I think you've been updated on all the matters, be they the rezoning and housing element coming at the next meeting, or the status of the vacancy and the potential appointment at the next council meeting. So nothing additional to report.
All right, I think we're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.